Like a phenomenon that people have to begin to understand is how there is such a disparity between the real world and the things that you will see online. Like these are two completely different worlds that you're interacting with. And the people that are stuck like terminally online get this perception that life is like completely grim, and this is where you get this doomer mentality where everything's over. There's no chance. Like you're just fucked in life. You don't stand a chance. You're going to be poor for the rest of your life. You're never going to marry. You're never even going to find a girl in the first place. You're never going to get a girlfriend. This is what people think. But in reality, this is because this is what's popular to think through online entertainment and through online media. These mediums are basically grooming you into making you believe that your life is hopeless. And it's just the general state of things today. There's plenty of reason to believe that the world is absolute crap and that everything sucks and life sucks and there's really no point in moving forward in life. Everything kind of sucks, right? Like, rent is extremely high. You can't buy a house. Employment is not exactly phenomenal. You know, there's a lot of whorish behavior going around, and it has been for a while, and people are fed up with it. And this is just propagated through commentaries and videos and whatnot. And I'm going to be the one here to say that that is not life. That is not an actual representation of life, like whatsoever. Like, are those things real? Sure, they're real. They happen. You will find many whores out in the real world. You will find many harlots. You will struggle to find employment in certain fields. Rent is not the greatest. But there is almost always a way around these things. And so I would ask you, we're controlled by Israel. Like, all these things are horrible and doomerish, and they all deserve credit and merit because they are genuine points of discussion and contention. But at the end of the day, the only one that can improve your life is you. And you have two choices in this life. You either choose to make your life better or you roll over and die. And so I'm going to try to make this short and sweet for you so you understand. So you stop being a loser. If you think that things are hard now, they can get so much worse. Like, I don't think your average day-to-day person comprehends just how garbage life can really be. Even your most destitute people living in a Western civilized country such as the United States lives under so many privileges, enjoys so many privileges and rights that 90% of the world, if not more than that, has never seen in their life and has never seen for generations. So they've never seen it for generations or has never seen at all to begin with, period. Like, Africa is a hole. Do you really want to be an African? Who wants to be an African, dude? Who wants to be a Middle Easterner? Who wants to be an Indian? Do you ever wake up to yourself and say, yeah, I want to be a Bangladeshi. I want to smell like piss and poop. I want to suck eggs. Do you ever wake up and say that to yourself? Like, God, I just wish I was an Indian. God, I just wish that I was an Afghani. What? I mean, would it kill a nigga just to be a Russian? Like, I just wish I could do those things. I wish I could be that. I wish I could be Chinese, dude. Who wakes up and says that to himself? Here's, without going on a tangent, but this kind of liberal idea of like a white privilege thing, it's really funny because like the conservative right has for a long time denounced that, and I mean I completely agree. Like that's pretty absurd. But when you really think about it, it actually does have some merit, Like, there is some privilege there. Of some kind. When you really think about what it means to be a white guy, there is something to that you're like, you know what? Like, it really comes full circle. If you're the white nationalist type, and you love being white, and you're proud of it because you're countercultural to everything that you've been told, then you kind of look at yourself and you're like, yeah, I'm proud of that. Well, then what does that mean? Because you're proud of the achievements, you're proud of the culture, you're proud of what your people has been able to create in the world and build. Meaning there's some level of superiority in there somewhere, right? That's somewhat kind of ingrained into it. So that also tells you, well, there's not really what I would call a white privilege, but there's like obviously something better to being white a lot of the time. Like a lot of the time. And maybe the left had something right with that, as we reflect in the collapse of the political left, you think to yourself, maybe they were onto something, maybe there was something like that, but it's just the way that it was expressed in culture and in society and in politics was completely wrong, right? Because I completely deny, I am completely in opposition to affirmative action, right? But it has a vestige of truth in it. There's something true to that still. It's like, wow, man, I'm white. Like, I'm not like an African. Like, that's so awesome. I'm not an African. But, I digress. That could be a separate point altogether. My point is, things could be so much worse for you. You could be a Guatemalan. But even worse than being a Guatemalan, you could be starving and a Guatemalan. You could really be sucking eggs, dude. You could be starving. You could be a Palestinian. Okay, right now, as this is being recorded, they're being killed. They're being wiped off the face of this earth systematically. This isn't a political point of discussion. This is just a fact of reality. They're being killed off. They've killed tens of thousands of them. This is a reality. Okay, when the rubber meets the road, your average poor person here in the States is enjoying all the luxuries of modern amenities. They still have a bed. They still have a place over their head. They still have a roof over their head. They have somewhere to rest. They probably have a fridge. They probably have a stove. They probably have a range or access to all of these things in some capacity, one or another. Like, you have internet, for the love of God. You have internet accessibility. These are things that millions of people have absolutely no way of accessing, and millions do not have the level of free access that we do. Like, have you ever seen a Chinese apartment? It's like a broom closet. You ever seen Kowloon Walled City? That's how shitty life could be, right? Your life could be shitty. And even Kowloon Walled City is not that bad when you really think of the history of man. When you think in relative terms, basically everyone lives better than 200 years ago, except for the Africans. The Africans, they just, they still make the poop house. You look back 200 years ago, and kids, American kids, were working like 18-hour shifts. Okay, we had Hoovervilles in this country. You ever seen a Hooverville? You don't want to live in a place like that. You don't want to live in the kind of turmoil, in such squalor as that. No one here in this country lives like that anymore, for the most part. Besides you're homeless, but you almost really have to try to be homeless a lot of the time. You're given food stamps. You understand, for the majority of human history, you've had no upwards mobility. Zero. None. You can't do anything. Generation after generation, you are doing the same garbage year after year after year. Your son's doing, your son's son's doing, so on and so forth. You look in the last 100 years and the level of horrors that you can experience in the last 130 years, the levels of horror, of absolute unbridled horror that people have undergone. The genocides, the wiping outs, the burnings, the destruction of crops, the destruction of cultures, of civilizations, of peoples, your livestock being demolished, killed, obliterated, your family being abducted, being sent into camps, into working camps, into kulaks. I mean, that's the level of horror that you can really undergo in this life. And you're there right now and complaining about not being able to make rent. Like, are you serious? Like, you want to kill yourself over something like that? Like, oh no, you had a breakup in a relationship? Who gives a damn? Who cares? Our ancestors died. They were killed off. Like, most of our DNA, people think our DNA comes from like, this wide assortment of people. And I'm not going to pretend to understand how it works exactly. But a lot of our DNA comes from royalty because, well, those are the people that had mobility. They had the opportunity to move around and spread their genetics and obtain that diversity, right? That diverse spread of genetic traits. So a lot of us tend to come from royalty, at least of European descent. We come from royalty. We tend to all come from some level of royalty when you go far back enough. Those are the people that were able to spread their genes. So that's where we come from. We come from a people that struggled. We came from a people that died, that were obliterated, killed off, that had no AC, that had no air conditioning, had no refrigerator, had no internet, had no encyclopedia, had no Wikipedia, had no Google, had no TikTok, had no YouTube. They didn't have anything. They couldn't read, they couldn't write. Most of the time they couldn't read or write. No formal education. Now, even your dumbest people have at least like a GED or have graduated high school or something like that. Like, they have some education. They probably dropped out. Okay, cool. But you still have like an 8th grade education. Okay? No one back then had that. You understand just how much of a behavioral cusp that is? The fact that you can read and write. You can read and write. You're like an alien life form to people 500 years ago, 600 years ago, 700 years ago, 800 years ago, 1,000 years ago. You are like an alien to them. You are so advanced in your skill set that you can just do what was only available to clerics, to priests, to a priestly class, and you're here complaining. Like, it's really silly when you think about it in retrospect. You have a car. You have a car. Basically, everyone has a car now. Okay, before there were cars, there were horses, horse and carriage. But most people didn't have a coach. Most people didn't have this. They didn't have a horse. Not everyone had a horse. So whether it was a car or a horse is besides the point. Almost everyone has a vehicle to move around on this earth with. And if you want to move out of a shitty city, you buy a plane ticket and you get out. Or you buy a bus ticket and you start new. You start fresh. Are things a little difficult right now? Yes, they are. They're in a relative sense difficult. Are things as good as they were 10 years ago? Maybe not. Are they as good as they were 20 years ago? Maybe not. But when you look at the overall scale of mankind and you look at where we are now, we are still at the peak. We're at the climactic point of human civilization. We have never been more advanced than we are now. Right now. We've never been more advanced. We have the access to artificial intelligence that can tell us basically anything. It can teach us anything. You have a question, it will give you an answer. It'll tell you anything. And you can access it for free. For free. You could do it at a public library if you wanted to. Like, we have the Library of Alexandria at our fingertips. And we have the wherewithal and the skills and abilities to comprehend it, understand it, and then implement it. But you're complaining about rent? You're complaining about a car payment? Like, dude, people back then died from chicken pox. People back then died from some stupid virus. They died from a bee stinging them. People died. You'd have 15 kids and 60% of them die. Most people don't even reach the age of 30. You look at life expectancies from the last 300 years and even into the 1800s, even into the late 1800s, people still, their life expectancy still was like 40. Like, can you understand that? Can you comprehend how insane that is? You'd be lucky if you lived to the age of 40. Statistically, you'd be lucky if you made it to the age of 40. That would be like reaching 80 today. Now, if a person dies at the age of 40 today, you'd say they died young. You'd say that person did not get to live life. They didn't get to experience the fullness of life. That was normal back then. You were lucky to make it out as a kid. You were lucky to survive infantility, being a baby. But again, you want to complain about, like, McDonald's is expensive? Are you serious? That's your reason for giving up. That's your reason for having a doomer mentality? Because you can't get a girlfriend? That is loser mentality. That is so gay. Like, you can do better. So, not to belabor the point, because I could go on and on, but I think you get the idea. Don't be a loser. Things are difficult now, but I promise you, they were way harder for your grandparents. We had a massive conflict 80 years ago. Millions died. Millions, tens of millions of people perished. They got bombed. They got shot. You look at people in Europe. You look at people in Asia. You look at the Eastern Front. The people were dying in frigid conditions. They were starving to death. They were freezing to death in combat, in close quarters combat, being sent in millions, just dying. Just a meat grinder, a literal meat grinder. That happened not even 100 years ago. This was a blink of an eye in human history. This was yesterday. Okay, people freezing to death in a faraway land, being sent to kill people, and your buddies are being killed off. You have no food. It's cold. That's the reality of life, is complete and utter suffering. Suffering. But here, people suffer a little bit. Like, I'm just going to put this out. If freezing and dying in Stalingrad is a 8 or 9 out of 10 in terms of suffering, then you not being able to afford groceries is like maybe a 0.9 out of 10. Maybe it's that. It's or you can't get a girlfriend. That's like a 0.3, 0.4 out of 10. People don't know suffering, like real suffering. People don't realize just how much worse things can get. Oh, we can go downhill from here. We can go straight down the from here. So you best be prepared. Prepare yourself. Arm yourself. Be a warrior, not a loser. Not someone who rolls over and dies. That is so lame. Your ancestors did not die for you to just roll over and give up. Come on. Grow up. Yeah. That's all there is to it.